Hey there, I am Barb Higgins, and this is 1,000 Tiny Steps. In this podcast, I share my stories of love, loss, triumph, and tragedy as I continue to retrace my steps and ponder what led to the death of my daughter Molly. By doing so, I hope to not only help myself, but to bring purpose and possibility to those who listen. If you are ready to laugh, cry, shake your head in disbelief, then tie, buckle, lace up, or slip on your shoes, and join me as we begin our 1,000 Tiny Steps. Hey everybody, Barb Higgins here, welcoming you to episode 201 of 1,000 Tiny Steps. So Kelsey here is my first guest in the 200 episode series of my podcast. We've known each other, I don't even know how long we've known each other, several years, but mostly of each other. We have mutual friends, but I came to know Kelsey super well through Human Milk for Human Babies and learning about breast milk sharing. When I had Jack, my old lady boobs weren't cooperating with me in the beginning, and I had a very hard time keeping up with Jack's need. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. I had a very hard time appeasing the medical profession that I was producing enough milk, and they were pushing formula, and Jack didn't like the formula, and it would make him sick, and then he wouldn't want to nurse, and it was all just confusing. I was spending the night in the hospital on the 5th anniversary of Molly's death because Jack was too small. This wonderful nurse told me all about this. It was a Facebook group, basically, Human Milk for Human Babies. It was the most eye-opening experience for me because I'd never heard of such a thing. In all of my prior pregnancies and childbearing experiences, I never knew that women could share breast milk. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey for a bit.
My name is Kelsey, and I live here in New Hampshire, and I have a wonderful husband, and we have 5 children together. Our oldest just turned 14. Our twins are 8, and then I have 2 more little boys after that he'll be 7 actually next week, and then the baby is 3, but he's almost 4 now, which is like crazy to think of.
Yeah, Jack just turned 4.
It's so crazy, like time flies.
Yeah.
And, I homeschool my children. I actually run a homeschool enrichment program. So we have a few, students that come to that, and we run a really fun school day together, and, it gives the kids a great opportunity to learn and be social and, just get to be kids and do what they love to do and learn what they love and all of that. We're pretty involved in our community around us.
The main reason I invited you on, well, a million reasons why I like amazing women on the podcast, but Kelsey was such a huge piece of my breastfeeding success, which is still going on, by the way. As I said just a few seconds ago, I'd never heard of sharing my breast milk or pumping extra to supply for someone else. It was completely new to me. And when I was early on struggling with Jack, a couple of my friends who were still nursing offered to pump, but they were like, pumping 3-year-olds. So they didn't have much success pumping at that point because their supply was truly, really minimal at that point. So tell me a little bit about your nursing and breastfeeding experience. Was it always easy for you? Have you nursed all your kids?
Yeah, so I've nursed all my kids for, different variations of time. I will say the more kids that I had, the longer I've gone. I think that, I was so young when I had my first. I mostly just did what the doctors had told me. And, there wasn't so much of a push for it back then. By the time, when I had my twins, I was a little bit older, and I was like, I'm definitely going to nurse them. And, they were born premature. So it was a little bit of a struggle because they were born so early. So they actually had to be tube fed through their nose at the beginning, which, kind of was a little bit of, I guess, a wrench in our plan there. But thankfully, I had them up in Lebanon, and then we got transferred fairly quickly down to CMC once they were off their breathing. CMC is like a huge supporter of breastfeeding, and they have a very high rate of mothers that go home nursing, which is awesome. So I do think that a lot of that beginning success I really owe to those nurses that I had in there, because they really helped me wean them off of, the tube feeding onto being able to latch and having the energy to latch and all of that, just really helping me through pumping at the beginning, because as you know, it's just like a lot at the beginning. And I never, with Claire, my older daughter, I never had to pump because she latched right away and all of that. It was like feeding tube and then nipple shield and then removal of the feeding tube and then the Wade feeds. And it was a process. I mean, they were in there for a month. It was 29 days.
Were you pumping at this time?
Yep. So I pumped right from the beginning with them because they were unable to latch for the first like 2 weeks of life because they were just so little and tired. But they were able to get my breast milk through the feeding tube. So for the most part, I think at the very beginning, like the first few feeds, they did have donor milk. I remember being in the operating room and being like, no formula, no formula, you have to do donor milk. And thankfully that was, readily available then. But, I was very fortunate that like my milk would come in super fast. I never like had any like waiting on that. And they were able to, just give it to them right away. That was great, and I nursed them for like ever. They're 8.5 now, and my youngest is 3. And I have not had a break in nursing since they were born.
Wow.
So it's been 8.5 years straight of nursing.
Your boobs are not your own. I call them boobs because that's what Jack calls them.
Right, right.
Well, you're lucky. And I say that, and I know that you know exactly what I mean when I say it. I have lots and lots of people in my life who want very much to nurse and struggle with it. And it's interesting because so much of the mindset of nursing when it's a battle goes into what how you feel about it before you start. So I know I have a lot of friends who just gave up. I have no judgment on it. We have to be the best mothers we can be, but not super committed and not really seeing that there was any big difference between breast milk and formula. And as long as they're fed, they would tend to give up more quickly than some of my friends who were just hardcore, like I'm breastfeeding. Like I remember I had a friend.
I will say when I was in the NICU at CMC, I had this one nurse. She was so great. Her name was Jen. She once told me, I remember being in there and I had mastitis and I was hooked up to IVs and it was so bad. And I was just like really not feeling like I could do it. And I was like, it's not even worth it. Like, and she was like, no, you can never quit on a bad day. You have to quit when it's a good day. And I have just always, that just really stuck with me. And
That's amazing.
Shared that with like friends and their nursing journeys. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's like so smart. Like,
right.
You can't get up when it's bad.
Right. No, you have to work through the bad. I had an easy time, Gracie and Molly as well. The hardest thing for me with Gracie was that my nipples got chapped. So Gracie nursed like a year and a half.
Okay.
Then Molly nursed 2.5 years.
Yep.
And I thought that was so long. And that was, So you nursed the twins. And then how long after the twins did you have your next baby?
So when they were 10 months old, I got pregnant with my next. And through that pregnancy, during that pregnancy, my boy twin stopped nursing and my girl twin continued. And then when he was born, I was nursing the both of them.
So the infant and the one twin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that nursing journey was super easy. I think because I just didn't stop in between. It was it was so easy. He was by far the most attached to nursing, and he actually would used to greet me, hi, my nipple, when I got home. That's what he would say.
That's the sweetest thing.
And then when he was 2, a little over 2, I got pregnant with my last baby. He was born a week after Ezra turned 3. So, and then I was still nursing the 3 of them.
So you were nursing one girl twin,
Ezra,
then your son, and then
the baby.
Wow. Yeah. God bless you. Yeah, I never had any tandem nursing. Gracie didn't regress at all and want it when Molly was born. She had been not nursing long enough that I didn't expect that she would go back to nursing. Yeah. What's that like though? Like, is it exhausting? Is it fine? Do you just adjust?
I'll say that there's definitely times where I'm super touched out, but my nursing children take priority in that. So it's usually like when my husband gets to me, I'm like, I'm done. Like, done touching for right now. Let's be done. But the 2 youngest, the baby and Ezra, they would nurse all the time. I had weaned the twin down to just night times.
Yeah.
To just before bed, which was super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And shortly after she stopped nursing, she just stopped asking. So that one wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
I just weaned Ezra like a couple weeks ago because his latch was actually really hurting.
Yeah. Jack, I'm noticing that. So Jack is 4. Yeah. So people think I'm like, you're still nursing?
Yeah.
Well, yes, I am, because he really still wants to nurse. And I also see the comfort in it for him. It's interesting. When he's not feeling well, he's on. Right. And that's when I think the human body is magical, because I know darn well that what's going on with the nursing child and the boob of the mother is a
Yep.
conversation. And so when he's
Right.
sick, I swear to God, I smell different.
Yep.
I more milk is in my breasts. I hear the gulps more. I just don't feel compelled to say no because I
I know.
might be making people uncomfortable.
Oh,
Like,
no. I get that. I mean,
yeah,
so Hayden is still nursing. He'll be 4 next week. So on the
yeah,
20th. I don't know when he'll stop. I guess we'll see. I don't see it happening anytime soon, which
yeah,
is
yeah,
fine. He definitely is a night nurser as well. So, and
yeah,
he's with me as well with my
yeah.
husband. It just is what it is. You're like, it's not always going to be as easy to fix their problems with a boob. Like, it's just not. It's going to be much harder as they grow older. And if that's what I can do right now when they fall down and scrape their knee, then that's what we do. So,
That's such a good way to look at it.
yeah.
Such a good way. My mother, so I was born in 1963 and my mother nursed all of her babies. And that was at a time when it was discouraged.
Yep.
But my mother was a nursing mother and she encouraged it and she was supportive in my own nursing journey. Although there were several times that well, why don't you just let me have formula on hand? I'm like, I'm not going to because you'll use it all the time.
Yeah.
It's easier to open formula than it is to thaw breast milk. I'm not doing it. And I had one time where I had a kidney stone, so I had to have all that dye.
Yep.
So that was back in the pump and dump days.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's not so prevalent anymore.
Really a thing anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what they've learned. So I had all that dye. So I just went 24 hours without nursing, and I just figured my system had gotten rid of it by
Yeah.
then. Hanging out in my breast milk, waiting to come out. But my mom, I was overnight in the hospital, and Molly was 9 months old and still just exclusively nursing. And so we did like 2 weeks of formula, and she was fine. Like not even like 5 days of formula.
Yeah.
Came home, and I'm like, that's it. And I put her back, and my mother's like, well, now that she's had some, and I said, no. Had there been milk sharing, I would have found breast milk for her,
Yeah.
and that would have been very different. Now, do you still nurse? Are you like a private nurser, or do you nurse in public
No,
ever?
I've never been a private nurser.
Neither. Here it
I'm
is.
for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with the twins, like I learned to really be comfortable because like you just do what you got to do and
Yeah.
like it is what it is. And
Yeah.
I say I've never really received any sort of, for the most part, I haven't really received any negativity, at least to my face. So,
Right.
I don't care what
No,
people,
I've had
but
mostly supportive stuff. The funniest thing, I was sitting at Hollywood Studios at Disney on
yep.
a bench right in front of Mickey's Railroad. And I'm on a bench and it's like 95 degrees and Jack is just a mess. I'm like, just have some boob. I have him on the boob. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm covered up, but it's very clear that I'm nursing a child. Okay. But I also look my age. Like,
Right.
I don't look like I'm 35. So these women walk by and they were dumbfounded and disgusted at the same time.
Oh
Like
my God.
their expressions were so stark. Gracie's like, what are you looking at? And they were just, oh, and they look away. But, I can understand because, I might not look 62, but I certainly don't look 40.
Right.
And so people look at me and for the most part, it's supportive. I mean, most people give me a look though. I think even if I were 25, nursing a 4-year-old is what it's about, not my
Yeah.
age so much.
Yeah.
In so many cultures, kids are nursed until they're 6 or 7. Like
Yeah.
it's not abnormal.
It is definitely more taboo here to do extending breastfeeding, which is
Yeah.
kind of a bummer. But the way that I view it is you can either be for breastfeeding or not. You can't be for breastfeeding till a certain age. Like that just
Right.
doesn't work. You're either for it or you're not. And,
Right.
I mean, I think that there's two people in a breastfeeding relationship. And as long as they're both comfortable with it, it shouldn't matter to anybody else.
It's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. I was being interviewed for a newspaper article. And so we're sitting on the porch, or they came to take pictures. It
Yep.
was just in the paper. It was about Jack and Mother's Day
Oh,
and
okay.
what it was like for me. We did all this big photo shoot, and Jack's like, can I have some boob? And we're sitting on my porch having a conversation. And I'm like, do you guys mind if I nurse him? Like I kept saying, no, we don't do boob in front of people. And the porter was like, I'm fine with it. And I'm like, Jeff,
Yeah.
are you okay? And he's like, yeah, of course. So, I mean, I arranged it so I'm not like whipping out my 62-year-old boob.
Right.
Actually, when they're relatively full of milk, they look okay. Like I can wear a bikini.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's fine. The positives in it, but they were fine with it. I haven't received any outward open criticism. Although if I look at the comment threads on a
Mhm.
lot of the news media things about me having a baby, they can be some pretty negative comments. So
Right.
tell me how you found out about getting shared milk and then sharing your milk.
I will say that when I had my oldest, it wasn't really a thing that was talked about. I definitely like had an oversupply with her and I remember like putting it in the freezer and all of that. I did not really extend breastfeeding with her very much. I remember I had this friend that kind of talked to me about how she's like, oh yeah, like some hospitals, they take donated milk for like preemie babies. And I was like, like I didn't even think about preemie babies back then. I was, I was young myself having a baby. And when I had the twins and I was like, they were born premature. I remembered that. And I remembered in the operating room, because I had an emergency C-section with them. I remember saying to them, if you have to feed them, can you please use donor milk? Do you guys have donor milk? And they were like, oh yeah, we do. Like we can do that. No problem. So from there, I had in that pregnancy in general, come pretty close to a group of friends, and they, lead more of I would say a holistic lifestyle. They were very familiar with breast milk, the ins and outs of it. And I learned a lot through them and donating and accepting. Most of them were on the accepting side, not so much donating side. But I, was like, oh my God, like that's so cool. That used to be like like wet nurses used to be like such a thing.
Yes.
Not a thing anymore at all. And I had joined the group, the Human Milk for Human Babies, and the New Hampshire breastfeeding support group and all of that. I know that when I had the twins and they were in the NICU, I did so much pumping that I had like thousands of milk. My body had twins, but they must have thought that I was like going to have like quads or something because I had so much milk. I ended up getting connected with a girl. She lived in Portsmouth. She needed milk for her baby. She had a baby, and I connected with her during that like postpartum. And I donated to her for a very long time. But throughout even donating to her, I had connected with lots of local moms on that page that were just like, hey, I need like 60 ounces to get through the week. Or, hey, I had so much. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, want to meet up? Sure. We connected with a lot of people that way. I still have friends that I talk to now that's how we met, like through donating milk. And
that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's pretty great. It's awesome. And then with Ezra, I donated a lot. I don't think I had like a long-term person I gave to. It was more just like different people. And then obviously with Hayden, I donated the whole postpartum with you, I think until Jack was close to 15 months old or something.
Yeah, it was summer. So he turned 1 in March and it was like June or July. And by then I was fine. Like I think the biggest thing for me too is it calmed me down. Like I was never able to produce enough to pump, but I still pumped like twice a day just to keep the message, like even if I only got an ounce or two, that was fine. So when I first came home and they kept, I think sometimes advice sounds good, but in practicality, what would have been best for me when I came home with Jack was to just drink a ton of water and take supplements and all those things and just put him on the boob all the time. And I think that would have been better. But they had this, you need to wake him up and you need all these like, and I just feel like I interrupted him. And he was 35 weeks and like 4 days. Or just at 35 weeks. So he had that little throaty thing. So sometimes that interfered with his ability to stay on the boob a lot because he needed to stop and catch his breath. Right. So it interrupts it, but not significantly. And there was nothing dehydrated about him. He was growing slowly. And I'm like, well, he's freaking little. Like, okay, he's a teeny tiny baby. But he's growing. He's not staying the same or getting smaller. So sometimes I wish I could have. Eventually what I did was I went to Exeter and spent a month in an empty apartment that my sister-in-law had and just stayed away from everybody. I just laid around all day. I nursed him. We napped. But when I was really, really panicked, this wonderful woman named Jackie who lived up north, she had heard about Molly and she had heard about Jack, me having the Jack. So I went on the page and they were moving and she had like 3 huge coolers of milk. She had been weaning her 3.5-year-old. And she just thought because they were going to spend a summer here and then they weren't really sure what they were doing. She wasn't going to continue producing milk because she was going to breastfeed her kid on the road and that was that. So she had all this milk to get rid of. So we met in a parking lot, like in Tilton. I felt like I was, picking up, you want to buy a Q, or, pick up some drugs or whatever. It was funny. And she goes, just bring several coolers and ice packs. So I borrowed a bunch of coolers and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at. And so then that's when I could put myself on an actual schedule. So we had nothing in our freezer for like 6 months except frozen breast milk, like nothing else. Like if you have to freeze it, we're not buying it. Like we'll go buy frozen food and come home and cook it. Like seriously, Kenny, that's what we did. I was able then to get into a schedule and Jack had no difference. He'd drink my milk, he'd drink the donor milk. The timing was perfect because just about the time I was done with her milk, you reached out and said, I make a ton of milk. And so some of my
Yep.
best memories are little Sunday drop-offs. You'd pull up in your van and your little kids everywhere, and
Yep.
here's the cooler of milk with little notes. And yeah, it was incredible. And the other weird thing, and this is like the sort of the universal love piece of me, like we're all connected on a spiritual realm somehow,
Hmm.
is that I feel that I have part of this wonderful woman, Jackie, and her beautiful daughter, and I have a part of Hayden and you in Jack. Like it's all connected to me. It's just the best. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm old and all of this is a bit miraculous and weird to me. But I loved that aspect of it, like the
Yeah.
ultimate sharing of your children with mothers.
Yeah.
And so no more pumping for you now, correct? You just nurse?
Yeah, I'm just nursing. I like would pump a little bit when I would like spend the weekend away from him for like dance comps and stuff, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
Did you think you'll have withdrawal I mean, I know you're probably a couple years out from that, but so
Yeah.
you're just basically nursing one now, yes?
Yeah, I'm down to one now. It's bittersweet, but I try not
Yeah.
to think about that day because it does make me sad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been like 8.5 years total. By the time he's done, it's probably going to be closer to like 10 years
Yeah.
straight of like
Yeah.
nursing. I'm not even going to know what to do with all my free space that I have.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And like never taking your boobs out for anything, you
Right.
know?
It's mostly, I would say, the emotional piece. It's definitely a security for him. Yes. He's definitely like, if he knows that I'm going to be leaving or if I'm going to be like going somewhere, oh, I need to nurse. And I'm like, oh, I guess you do.
Yeah. I guess that's
Uh,
it. Gracie was just home. And, we're not a super modest family. If you walk in
yeah.
on someone in the bathroom, oh well. So
Yeah.
Gracie was changing and she, took off her shirt and there they are.
Yeah.
And Jack was like, "Oh, this is great. Mom's not here. You can give me boob." And Gracie's like, "No, that's not really how it works. I don't have any milk in my boobs."
Oh my
Like
gosh.
he
That's
doesn't, he doesn't quite get it.
right.
But I love his realization that he doesn't need to drink milk from the fridge because there's milk in the boob.
There's
And I'm like, okay. So
He's not wrong.
no, he's not at all. I think sometimes I'm honest and open about these things because I feel like it gives other women permission to continue what they're doing. The number of women in all manner of things that I talk about, and I talk about all the uncomfortable things on this podcast,
Yeah.
that feel unable to talk about it, like whatever it is, whether it's abuse they've suffered, whether it's trouble they're having in a relationship, whether it's grief over the loss of somebody. So many women feel unable to share.
Yeah.
So when I share or when you share or we have this conversation, somebody will listen that will have a friend who's going through something who will say, "Hey, listen to this." And then it's a conversation about, now how old are you?
31.
So when I was your age, you were born,
Yeah.
right? So I talk about being a nursing mother a lot because I feel like it's an homage to the female reality
Yeah.
that women's bodies are amazing. And yes, I had IVF and a lot of hormonal intervention. And then the fact that I can feed him with this old lady, wrinkly faced. My skin isn't what it used to be. I get to collect Social Security in a month if I want to. Body, like, do you have any like super fond memories? Like, do you have favorite nursing memories or?
For sure. I will never forget the first time that I was able to tandem nurse the twins in the NICU when they were both off their feeding tubes and being together. That was like so, so precious to be able to finally do that. When like their wires were finally removed and everything.
Yeah.
And they both, like were able to get it. That was awesome. And I definitely remember the last time nursing Hayden and Ezra recently within like the last months, the first time. I mean, the last time I nursed them together, I did it together. They were holding hands and, that was just a beautiful moment.
It makes me want to cry.
I know. I know. It is.
Oh God, it's like this circle of life in a whole different.
It is. Yeah.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is Ezra doing okay? Is he like moving on okay?
Yeah, he's okay. I mean, we did a lot of talking about it.
Yeah.
He is definitely older now. And, like, I know that a lot of people don't agree with this extending breastfeeding. I mean, he had like adult teeth. Like,
yeah. It's like, okay, it's time.
Yeah. Like, bud, like, it's okay.
The parts of you that still want this, I can love you in different ways. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And, he's definitely still super close and snuggly with me. And, I don't think that'll ever change.
Right.
It's okay. He's okay with it.
I also feel that in some manner that we can't identify because we're not inside our children's bodies, that sometimes the need for something like breast milk or breastfeeding goes beyond anything we can understand. We can label hunger. We can label, we like that, like the taste. We can label, oh, they want to schmuggle. But his body could totally have needed something that only
Yep,
comes from you.
for sure.
So I feel sometimes with Jack that his extended desire to nurse isn't just this emotional thing. I just think it's a combination of things that I'm not meant to understand or control.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, in other countries, it is like not even a second thought. It is so
No.
normal to wean around the ages between like 5 and 7.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it's not seen that way here. I think like doctor recommendation this in our country is like 2, right? I think it's 1 or 2.
Yeah. Like, yeah. It's like, I remember taking Gracie for her physical at like 6 months, and our primary guy wasn't there. So I had someone else, and she sort of was snarky with me. But she's like, "What are you feeding her? She's awfully fat." And I'm like, so I just, tapped my boobs. And, was running again. I'm not huge, and my boobs aren't huge.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she goes, I'm not buying it.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
and I'm like, well, okay, but that's what she eats. And she starts when she's hungry and she stops when she's done. I don't, well, you need to pump and measure it. And I'm like,
Oh,
no, I don't. No, I think I don't. Like, it was
yeah.
just bizarre. It makes no sense to me.
Right. And I definitely think that there's just not a lot of knowledge that regular PCPs have about nursing.
Right.
And like you said, like she wanted you to measure it, but like you should know that like when you pump, that's not an indication of like how much you're actually getting, because you pump different than what the baby can remove.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
even really tell you actually anything.
Well, and the other piece is we've removed ourselves so much from food in this country
Yeah.
as well, with all the processed crap that we eat, that our bodies don't communicate with it anymore. And by waking a baby up to feed that baby, or pulling the bottle out because they've had their 3 ounces, or
Right.
pulling them off the breast because last time they nursed for 5 minutes, they gained 3 ounces. And so it's been 5 minutes. So now, we take away their ability to listen to their bodies,
For
to
sure.
trust the growl in the tummy. That means they're hungry, and
Yep.
to understand, oh, I'm full now.
Yep.
Do
Yep.
you have any like horrible memories nursing wise, like a disastrous memory or a frustrating one, or?
I wouldn't really say any of that. I definitely have way more positive than negative. I was really fortunate that number one, I had a very supportive spouse that was like super just encouraging. Anything I needed, he was like
Yeah.
super great about
Yeah,
it.
he's fantastic. Yeah.
Made like a huge difference. I also, I'm very close with my mom, and she was also she nursed me and my sister, and, she was had a lot of great information. Circling yourself with friends who know stuff can definitely help, because, like I said, the doctors are kind of clueless. And I was sent home multiple times with wrong information. And had I not had my close circle of friends who were like expert breastfeeders, I wouldn't have known that a lot of that was normal. But I'll say, for the most part, everything has been pretty positive. I was very fortunate that mostly it came pretty easy to me. We have had, I'll say with Hayden, we had to get, a couple of my kids have, but with Hayden in particular, I think he was like 2 or 3 weeks old when we had to get his tongue clipped because he was tied. And that healing process from that was definitely the hardest out of all of them. He did go on a nursing strike, which was a little worrisome for me. We were able to, work through that and everything. But other than that, mastitis can kick you in the butt anytime.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I seem to get that a lot, especially because I was an overproducer. And if I had a pumping session, I was like, oh, I'm going to sleep through this pumping session. I regretted it in the morning because it was like instant clogged duct and then mastitis. And I want to say I probably had, I'm not kidding, like 16 rounds of actual mastitis.
Oh God, I only had it once and it was awful.
Be hospitalized a couple times for it because it was so bad and it was just so painful. So I think really that was probably the only negativity, but that never affected the kid, like the babies, like,
Right.
But those are rough to work through. And I could see why people would want to give up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Same. Do you have any funny memories? Like,
the one that my kids always talk about is the time when we were riding a train at an amusement park and I had a letdown, on the train, and it was too much it was for Ezra, I think, and it was too much for him. So I had to like hold my boob over the train as it was like going.
And out comes the milk.
And we had the water fountain, and I'm like, okay, guys. Every time we get on that train at that amusement park, they always bring up. They think,
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. My one funny memory is Molly was born April 1st, and like June 13th or so, like right about this time of year, was the high school New England track and field championships. So I had to leave at like 5 in the morning. So I had all this pumped milk at home for Molly. And I had a breast pump and bottles and a cooler and everything packed for me to take with me. And I left it on the kitchen table.
Oh my gosh.
So I go down there. I don't even notice I don't have it. It gets to be like 1 in the afternoon. So I left at 6 in the morning. So it's been a long time and I've had tinglies and stuff. I go to find it and it's not with my stuff. I go to the bus, it's not on there. So I call Kenny on my cell phone with the antenna because that was, sure enough, it's on the kitchen table. So I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
So my bus driver was this wonderful guy. He goes, do you want me to go to Target and buy you one and buy some bottles? And I'm like, wouldn't I have to clean? Like, it just overwhelmed me. So I'm like, you know what? I'll be fine. So I got ice packs. And I
Yeah.
put my boobs and wrapped myself up. So I didn't get home until like 9 at night. And I put a sports bra on. And then I asked like a heavier girl with bigger boobs than me on the team, can I have your sports bra? And I put that one on over the ice packs. By the time we get to Concord, I'm in so much pain I can't function. So the
Yeah.
bus driver dropped me off at my house right out here at the front door. And then I gave my keys, the keys to the school and the keys to my car to like a girl on the team. So they went and took care of all that and they came back to my house. So I go in and Kenny had it also. I had like 6 little breast pumps. They were like those little Target, you put a bottle on it. I
Yeah.
had a whole bunch. So I
Yeah.
had 2 double ones that you do at the same time. So he had put 8-ounce bottles on those, like the big ones.
Yeah.
I took my bra off. The minute I had everything off, my boobs just went like they seriously, it was like Kenny
Yeah.
was like, what's happening? Like, and so I put the pumps on there. Seriously, it went pump, 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 and it was 8 ounces.
Oh my
Like
God.
I've never seen anything like it. I need new ones. And so he had like 3 extension cords, so they were all plugged in. So he
Yeah.
took those ones off, another one on, same thing. 8 ounces out of each boob again, and like 4 pumps.
Oh my
Those
God.
came off. So all in all, I pumped 45 ounces of milk out of each breast in
Oh
like
my gosh.
12 minutes. Like
Oh,
it was just out. Then Molly woke up and I sat down and nursed her. And as I was nursing this, what I thought was a deflated breast, the other one started like pouring.
yeah.
While this was going on, now I have roughly 90 ounces of milk on the kitchen table. The girls from the team come back, all these high school girls. So they see me sitting and they see that Molly's nursing and they look at the table and they're like, what are we looking at? Like, what are we looking at? And I'm like, someday when you have your babies, you're going to remember this.
Yep.
That all came out of me.
Oh
And they
my
were
God.
like, oh my, like massively. So, no lie, I've
Hmm.
heard from all of those girls in their mothering journeys who the first time they nursed, that's what they thought of.
Okay.
Was
Yeah.
like, yeah. Do you have any like nursing advice? Like if you had one piece, like one misconception or one piece of advice?
I would say my biggest piece of advice is going to be what my NICU nurse Jen told me is to
Yes.
never
Yeah.
quit on a bad day. I would also really encourage every single mom to find an IBCLC instead of just an LC. Finding an LC is just a lactation consultant. It doesn't really require much to be a lactation consultant, although they're great. They're not
Yeah.
super knowledgeable. Not all of them, but most of
Right.
them. If you
Yeah.
find board certified IBCLC, there's a
Okay.
lot more hours of training that go into that. It's like new stuff that they have to, renew yearly. And I would say that those people definitely have more information regarding like newer things with like tongue ties and stuff like that. Because I think there's a lot of false information out there just in general that like delivery nurses say, and new moms like take it to heart, like
Right.
waking up your sleeping, like you don't have to wake up your sleeping baby. Like,
Yeah. No.
I mean, unless if your baby's like a preemie and you have to, but like there's just things that I think that if I had found like an IBCLC way sooner, then I would have not like done other things. And I would say another big piece of advice that I would really recommend, do not use a nipple shield as like long-term thing because it can affect your milk supply. Have a plan with an IBCLC on how to wean off of that.
Oh, good advice.
I had a friend once that was nursing her 15-month-old and she was like, oh, I can't nurse you. I forgot our nipple shield at home. And I'm like, why are you still using that? She's like, well, they never told me not to. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's just like they just send you on your way and like
Yeah.
you. And I wish that it wasn't like that because I know. So I had Hayden at Concord Hospital, which was, I ended up there via emergency because of some stuff that happened in his pregnancy. And it was an emergency C-section as well. Long story short, I also ended up in the pediatric ward instead of the mom's place and the nurses in the pediatric ward were like giving me all this advice. And I was like, that is so incorrect. Like, I don't know what you're even saying right now, but like, I was like an avid nurser for all of my children. I knew what I was doing. Like, I didn't want to be like rude to them, but they were like they were dumb and not know anything. And I would just agree with them because I wanted to he was a little bit of a preemie and he had some breathing and feeding issues. So he wasn't too early, but he was like 5.5 weeks early. So we had to be there for 9 days. And they were like just giving me the worst advice, but I was just agreeing because I wanted to get out of there. Like I would do it, like whatever, when they left the room, and I think it was funny because he had a hard time gaining weight there. But the minute we went home, he settled, I settled. We had like a visiting nurse, not even 24 hours later, and he had like gained weight. That was not the place we needed to be. And those nurses didn't know anything. So
that was my experience.
I would say definitely not taking the first advice as the only advice. Like get yourself out there and definitely talk to your mom friends that are living nursing lives every day, because they're going to run into more things than anything a nurse in a hospital is going to run into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then oftentimes, as I was telling you before we started recording about the nurse that I had an interaction with, they're also not allowed to say certain things.
Right.
Their speech is completely stifled if it doesn't match the philosophy of the hospital. So
right.
That's another piece that is frustrating.
Yes.
Well, this has been fabulous. I'm so glad that you came out and talked to me. Plus, I love talking about babies and boobs and all that kind of stuff.
Breastfeeding is such a beautiful journey. I hope that every mom gets to experience it, whether it's like a day, a week, or a year.
Yeah.
Any day is special that you get to do it.
Yep. I agree. Oh, I agree 100%. I want to thank Kelsey for visiting with me today and talking about all things breast milk and babies and connections and love and all that sort of stuff. If you have questions, please reach out, because I can find Kelsey any old time, and I will put links to things that she shared in the show notes. So as always, be good to yourself. If you're a nursing mother, drink a lot of water and calm down and relax. It's going to be fine. Don't let people boss you around. Good to someone else. Call up your friend who's struggling with her baby and let her know it's going to be okay and not to quit on the bad day. And as always, have a good day, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Feel free to leave a review and share my stories with your friends. Please reach out with your own stories, as I love connecting with my listeners. If you would like to get to know Molly, head over to mollybfoundation.org to see what she is all about. If you want to see what I'm up to next, you can find me on Instagram at barb_444, on Facebook as Barb Higgins, and at my website, 1000tinysteps.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, a weekly way to find out what's up in the life of Barb Higgins.